What's up, everybody? So today I'm going to try to tackle the question I probably get asked the most by people that are brand new to watching my channel and everything else. A question that, honestly, if I had $1 every time I got asked, I probably, well, I wouldn't need to trade anymore, I'll put it that way. But it's, how do you draw a zone? And it's very simple, I think. It's not a very complicated thing. And in fact, if you haven't picked it up, you're probably just overthinking it. But it comes from, there's a few ways people do it. How I do it is probably a little differently than most. For instance, if you're watching a supply and demand video, they're going to grab these tops. Like supply and demand will grab probably this candle body, and then they'll grab the top of the wick. That's the distall line. For distance lines to the top, that's the furthest peak it's ever done. They're just grabbing the extremes up here. Some people will even grab just the wicks, and that's it. The difference is, well, that's supply and demand. That's their supply zone. Their demand zone, I mean, looking at this chart would be all the way down here right now, because that's just where we're at. So supply and demand, there's your demand zone. Here's your supply zone. Here's all this in between. But they're buying here. They're selling here. Support and resistance. Support and resistance, they're probably hopping down on a smaller time frame if you want that to be a little more effective. And here's like a little resistance they formed. Just kind of held that. We broke above, maybe faked out, and then confirmed it, came back down. Very simple, just lines for support and resistance. Here was another. We held this line right here. Here's your here's your support that it held right there, broke through, and now it became your resistance, and kind of now it's support, came back out. Nothing I'm crazy about. Smaller time frame intraday stuff probably more effective for scalping and stuff like that. Nothing too wild. How I do things a little bit differently. Now I typically stick on the 4-hour time frame. If things get choppy, I'm up in the daily. In stock, I know this is a forex pair, but in stocks there's only one difference. The daily is 1 candle, 4-hour would be 2 candles. So if I need to tweak something or something like that, then I'll jump in the other one. If you've watched all my other videos, you should be able to put all this together. But while I'm explaining what this is, it's literally just a box. I mean, we're literally going to click the rectangle, tradingview.com, click the rectangle, there's your zone. The huge difference in how I do it and how you're probably going to draw this, that's what's going to be the difference in how we trade. You can't just draw this out here and then it just magically turn around. There's an experience side to things and knowing what these candles are and what they mean. So while I would probably agree that's the zone right here, grabbing this candle right here, I know there was a bunch of buyers. I know now there's a bunch of sellers. Now how I trade these is I would have tried that out as a zone, and I would use that to structure, like, this is where I'm going to get in. I have a perfect entry types video. It's called that, perfect entry types, on how I would trade this reversal right here. And I would use, sorry, hang on, let me get off this. I would use these wicks for my stop loss. So if I was going to short this, that's where my stop would be at. I would like to get in here. I'm not doing anything in here. That's its free space. I'm in here and I'm going to tag out if it goes above this. That ripped up pretty good as far as where I would have taken profit. This would have just been a picture perfect play. Would have just kept going. Because I trail things, I don't take profit. I don't try to guess the peaks. I trail everything with a stop. So I would have trailed this. It just would have been amazing. Another thing, again, it's understanding what these candles actually mean, which is why it doesn't matter if I'm on a Forex chart, a futures chart, or stocks. These candles represent buyers and sellers. So where I differ from probably most is I'm not using supply and demand, support and resistance. I'm looking for the balance in buyers and sellers. When there's an imbalance, all of this is an imbalance. There's more buyers than there is sellers. There's more sellers than there is buyers. Just looking at this peak right here, if 50 buyers were buying it up here, this is where those 50 sellers came in. So 50-50, we're hanging out. We're staying level. There's equilibrium. Well, you'll hear people talk about that. Probably not so much in this one because it was quickly met with more sellers. So either more sellers came in or the buyers left, creating this imbalance which drops it down. So just knowing that and knowing how institutions and banks work. See, I'll find more stuff Like this right here, kind of a rally-based drop, I would chart this out. And now, again, I'm grabbing the candle bodies. Kind of see where we go a little bit further. Yeah, I'm probably going to grab it a little bit more on this one. Let me make these yellows a little bit clearer. So I know for some reason, I don't care why. I don't care if this is a resistance, supply and demand. I don't care if news came out. I know there was that balance again. And it came right back out. We retested it again. I would have got that same alert. I could have shorted it right back out. We did break through. If I was in this one and I took that trade, my stop would have been right here. It would have blown right through. I would have stopped out. Whatever. We came back in. We did dance around, which you can jump into a smaller time frame. I don't do the dancing around back and forth business. Once I tag out, that's that. So we do kind of hang out here, but we do start to form kind of a triangle pattern. It does break out. We hang out. You can see now we're still drawn to this area, and we can still see the buyers were here again, but not we didn't make any highs. We didn't change any trend. So at that point, if I took this type 1, this would have tagged me out right here in the green. We can see we still kind of danced around, and ultimately we've stayed underneath it right now, and looks like we're headed up here again. So I'll use that, which I actually would have grabbed it from right there, to structure my trade. And so you'll see in my charts, you'll see some purple ones that I call a speed bump zone, because we grabbed that on the daily. Now I do the daily and 4 hour, but then I watch the hourly trend, and we hang out in here. 4x might be a little harder to do on the hourly. Try to find a good speed bump zone. Kind of right here. Now we've blown right through this, and you'll see me mark these as purple because we cruise right through it, and we do start to dance around it. So on a smaller time frame for scalps, I'll use these for getting in and out a lot. But again, I'm more of a swing trader, so I don't do too much on these. I will in fact use this so this would have been a zone right here, and then once we blew right through that, I'm using that as my structure to add on and move my stop, because I trail everything. So if I find a zone like this, once we hit that, I'm still in it short, so I'm trailing. We get it right here, my trailing stop stays right here. It's all manual. I don't use any actual real trailing stops. So I'll have a manual stop here if we're in that zone. Now this would have gone right through, so again it would have been a picture perfect play. I would have added on, we'd keep going, and I still would have been good. I don't know if I'd have grabbed any of this. I probably had, yeah, my other zone would have been down here. Looking at that. So we would have danced around here, rejected. I probably would have tagged out somewhere on this green candle, to be honest. Which looks, if I didn't tag out, we would have kept going. I want to find a good, I know this is one we're about to break down. So we'll just go to a stock. Again, supply and demand, they're probably grabbing, the top wick. This one I would agree with. This is why some of mine are the same. It's never one or the other. Again, it's all about the candle patterns for me and what they're telling me where the buyers and sellers are at. I don't see any too obvious ones. We gapped up into here, so I would chart that out. So just that gap, that indecisive, was that wicks to both sides, which also tells you right here, all the buyers were here, all the sellers were here. That's that convergence. That's where they meet in the middle. That's where I like to get in. Often what I tell my mentor group is what I like to look for is that game of tug of war. I like to know, I don't like to just go up, pick the rope up, and hope I'm on the right side. I like to know who's on what side and then make my decision and hop in. If I'm wrong, I let go of the rope. They're not taking me for a victory lap. But if I'm right, then I'm going to drag them all around town because I just trail everything. So that's always what I'm looking for, and that's how I structure. This is just how I structure all my trades. Is I'll find that, chart it out, and I set my alerts off that. I like to know what's coming into these areas. Again, I hesitate to even make this video because there's more to it. Is when we get into this zone again, what was going on this day? We had this charted out right here. My stop, I don't know if I would have made it all the way up here. I would have probably used this one for sure. Once it gets a little crazy, no, but we had this real indecisive right here. So my stop, realistically, I'm not just saying because I know how it plays out. Realistically, my stop would have been right here if I was looking for a short position. And I've told my mentor group, when I do stuff like this, if you think it's going to like rally, base rally, we're not out of the woods until we get above this. So whatever's going on that day, you know, what's the attitude of the market doing that day? There's a whole lot, like this is just drawing the zone, and then there's execution, which comes later, well, once you know how to do this. So right here, if I was short, I would have never tagged out. I would have taken a type 1, type 2, type 3 would have been right here. It would have came back, and that short play would have worked out great. Here we are again. We tagged it again, came back out. Now, supply and demand, if that was a supply zone, this would have retested it, broken it, and they probably would have quit playing this zone, where I'll keep going. Supply and demand is typically what people say how the banks get in trade. And, you know, it's because there's a short order to fill 1 million shares here, but they have to do limit orders. So maybe only 500,000 shares filled, and then maybe another 250 filled, and then here's your next 250. But you don't know how many leftover orders are still there. But at that point, what the retail world sees this as a resistance now, so they're going to short it, and that just puts more people on your side. I don't play patterns, but I know what all the patterns are, and I like to keep an eye on them, because let's say this was a head and shoulders, and we're not going to use, this isn't actually a head and shoulders, no, don't play it. But let's say we were watching it and this was happening. I'm pointing to the monitor. I'm only trading this zone. This is where it's at. But I do like to see this, because at that point, that's probably not as much of a multiplier. Maybe it is. So what I'm about to get at is multipliers. What things that kind of add to my confidence that this might actually play out, or more people are going to be on my side. Again, it's an imbalance of buyers and sellers. So let's say I think this is a zone. All the retail world, they're calling out a... I said we should move this up. God. Hang on. Sorry about that. Let me... Everyone on stock twits. Let's pretend these are the candles right here. If the candles are doing this, and I have this zone charted out, and then here's the everyone's stock twits, everyone's calling this a head and shoulders. They think that's going to play out. I know everybody watching that is about to short it with me. That's just more people on my side. Again, I don't care about the pattern. I just still know them because I want to know how many people are on my side. Like I talk about as a multiplier as to why I should take that trade. What's going on that day, and do I think it's going to be a... Let's just get out of here. So here's the zone. Where are my ghost candles? So you have it coming into this right here. Here's your zone. Okay, and now maybe it's a base right here. You've taken the trade now because you waited. You could have just taken it on the way in. I do all the time. I've been doing this for a while, so I kind of know where they're at and how things are going to play out. Plus, I trade the same stuff over and over again, so I know the characteristics and how things move. But if you've never been in this ticker at all, you might want to wait for it to kind of base out and see that there is that game of tug-of-war going on, and not just some news or catalyst just currently taking it and just going to blow right, just clean through it. So you've seen that base. This is why risk management is so important, because all you have is this right now. You're asking yourself, is this going to be a rally-based rally or a rally-based drop? Now, whatever you have that current day in that moment, take that into consideration. Make your plan. You have your entry in here, your stop loss here, and you're going to trail it when it breaks out and goes to the upside. Or you're going to short. Your entry is here, your stop loss is here. You want it to go this way. This is why risk management is important, because if you're wrong, let's say this is just that demand zone. That's where it's at, or the supply zone, sorry, because it's up top. You think it's going to go, you want that to play out. Now, if it goes against you, you're wrong, you tag out, and that's it, because it's going to do that. Or it's going to retest this. There's not going to be any more sellers there, and it's going to do that. So again, we're just looking for this right here. This is how I'm doing it. I'm looking for this. I like to see where it's at. Any strong news will just be relevant for that quick spike. Typically, it still grabs these. The only weakness with this is when you have the stock at all-time highs. I'm good at grabbing zones. I can see when they're being created on the way up, but I have to wait for that pullback to get in. So as far as a weakness goes and how I trade stocks, if we're at all-time highs and we don't know where the ceiling's at, it's hard for me to really guess that. And if you guys watched my Roku video, what's today, the 14th, a couple weeks ago or last week, Roku is hitting all-time highs, and I told you guys I was waiting for a pullback right to here. I grabbed that zone off of a rally-based rally. So again, if you're new to my channel, if you're just watching this, I have a whole playlist called How to Trade, and it involves my perfect entry types. I have a video on price action and just how I get in and actually use these and execute the trade. But I don't overthink it. It's not supply and demand, it's not support and resistance. Again, I'm looking for that game of tug of war. And once I see that game of war is being played, I look for, I'm just the kid, I'm late to recess. I want to know who grabbed it, who talked the gym teacher into getting on their side. And I'm probably going to grab that one. But the more people, how do I put this? I'm just looking for more reasons why it's going to be a rally-based drop or a rally-based rally in that current moment. But it's also why I like the higher time frames. If you start doing this on the smaller time frames, you're really just tagging support and resistance. There's a lot of noise. You'll likely tag out more often than you would on the higher time frame. And that's what's always worked well for me. Again, that 4 hour is my sweet spot. I'm drawing these zones on the 4 hour, sometimes a daily if I need to fine tune it. And then I'm watching the hourly trend after that. That's always been my sweet spot and how I've always played these. And hopefully this video has been able to help out. That's how I draw these zones. That's why they're not support and resistance. They're not supply and demand. This is just how I trade and how I do things. So if you guys have any questions, anything, obviously let me know down below. Yeah, and if you are on Discord, the free chat is also linked down below. Just find a way to get at me. Let me know if you have any questions, and I'll help you guys out. And other than that, I'll see you in the next video.